Everybody, welcome back to the third episode of the Senators Roundtable. Today I'm joined with my usual co-host, Dayton Reimer and Paul Quinney. First things first, Paul, we missed you last week. We had Brent Wallace on in your spot. I'm sure Dayton is happy to have you back. He got yelled at quite a few times, but it was all in good fun. Paul, you went on quite a trip. You want to kind of tell us about that for a minute?
Oh, yeah. I went on a bike and barge tour of the Danube with my wife. So I won major brownie points with Marie's, my wife, for taking her to Europe. But I couldn't let hockey go. Part of the trip, we ended up in Slovakia and Bratislava. So we were doing a tour. And I said to the tour guide, does this tour include a visit to Zdeno Chera's house or maybe Marian Hossa? Guy didn't know who the heck they were. So hockey needs more visibility in Slovakia. I think he thought they were ancient Slovak kings or something, but he got it across to me. No, Hossa and Chera not on the tour. But yeah, it was great. But good to be back here in the Great White North.
Good stuff. Dayton, how have you been the last week?
Oh, not bad. Definitely wasn't in Europe. Paul, was that your first time in Europe?
No. I've been there many times from my career in the business world. So, but the first time in Slovakia, lovely place.
Yeah, briefly there in was it Bratislava? I can't remember right now.
Yeah.
But I was there during my honeymoon, which was a few years ago now.
Good.
Yeah.
Awesome. First things first, we're going to get into the ownership of the Ottawa Senators. So obviously, since our last episode, the sale has officially closed. There's been a lot of news that come out. Cyril Leader is the new CEO and president. A couple other changes in the organization. We haven't heard about Daniel Alfredsson yet, which I assume is coming. Same with Steve Staios. But on TSN 1200, Michael Andlauer went on the radio and was asked a couple questions. And one of them was about DJ Smith and what he said to Pierre Dorion about that. So basically what Andlauer told Dorion is that DJ Smith is your guy. I'm going to hold you accountable to that. So kind of what do you think about that? It's nice to have an owner that is hands-on but knows his boundaries. Paul, we'll start with you.
Well, I spent 3 decades in the corporate world in sales and business development, and that's sales is a full contact sport. So I've heard that speech before. From CEOs, and I guess on the surface it shows he's a real pro, how to get the best out of his organization. I mean, essentially what he's saying is to Dorion is, look, I'm going to give you the freedom to do your job. I'm going to give you the tools to do your job and all the support and encouragement that you need, but God help you if you don't produce the results. Fair enough. That's the way the corporate world works. I'd expect that from a guy like Andlauer, given his background in business. So I think that bodes well for the Senators if that's his approach. I mean, I'm old enough to remember several NHL owners who got involved in their franchise with disastrous results. The classic case is Harold Ballard, who ran the Leafs from majority owner from 72 to 90. You don't want an eccentric owner like Ballard getting involved in the business side. But that said, I can't help but believe that Andlauer is going to want his own boys in place. Now, whether they take Dorion out or not, I don't know. But I think if that's his approach, it bodes well for the organization.
Yeah, and we heard from Brent last week, and he said that Andlauer does want to bring in Steve Staios and Peter Chiarelli, put them either replacing Dorion or above him. So obviously things seem like it's comfortable with Dorion as general manager, but like you said, Andlauer wants his guys in there helping make the decisions, but he knows that it's not his job to make the decisions. So either from that quote on the radio or anything else that he said, is there any takeaways from, I guess, the past few days about Andlauer?
Well, I definitely don't have the same experience in business, but I did come to the same conclusion as Paul that, yeah, it's great to have an owner who is sort of that hands off. Like, this is your guy. He represents you. I'll give you the tools to do it, but in the end, if he doesn't perform, that means you're not performing. And that's more so what I heard with that was it's a little foreboding. Like, you don't have an everlasting leash.
Nope.
No, like, this might be one mistake, you're done type of thing.
Yeah. Because
he does have so many of those guys on his I don't know, his card, I guess. Steos is supposed to be coming in. Chiarelli. I don't love Chiarelli. I'm originally from Alberta. I saw a lot of what Chiarelli did.
Yeah.
It's not great.
Yeah.
So if that's the replacement, I don't like that. If it's Steos, then great. But yeah, someone's going to replace him, I think, especially if the season doesn't go well. And according to Wally last week, might be way sooner than that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so go ahead, Paul.
No, I mean, you're going to have to manage a potential conflict. If Steos comes in above Dorion, you're going to have to manage a potential conflict there. I've seen that before. How long Dorion lasts, to a large extent, in my view, will depend on whether Andlauer believes in the blueprint, if you will, or the process that Dorion has put in place to produce a championship team. If he buys into that, if he believes in that, then I think Dorion, will have some runway. But, hey, look, organizations, companies, they're populated by human beings. And so, that entire range of dynamic, the good and the bad, is going to come into play here. So it'll be a time of change.
And this isn't Andlauer's first kick at the can owning a team. No. He's had a lot of success with the Bulldogs in the OHL. He was part owner of the Montreal Canadiens for quite a while. So it's not like he's brand new at this. He knows what he's doing. He's not just some rich investor that is just coming to play on the business side. He wants a Stanley Cup. He bleeds hockey. So I'm really excited to see what he does, and I trust the process right now. I have no reason to kind of be hesitant about any of the decisions that I think are coming.
Well, of all the potential owners of the franchise, I mean, I looked at some of the owners. They had who was it? Snoop Dogg and some dude from LA and Arlene Dickinson from. I mean, I saw that movie with don't know if you remember the Toronto Argonauts when John Candy and crew, basically bought the Argonauts, and it was a plaything for them for a while. And then when they lost interest, they moved on, but they left a mess behind. So I think of all the potential owners, as much as we all love Snoop Dogg, glad he didn't get the franchise. Glad it was, Andlauer is probably the best choice.
I don't know. I thought that would have been really fun.
I think it just would have been really helpful for the atmosphere. Yeah. But
it sounded like he wanted to bring in the right guys, but is that the right person at the head? Yeah, no, I think I'm with you on that.
Yeah, having Andlauer, the hockey guy, is beneficial. It would have been really cool to have Snoop Dogg or Ryan Reynolds running the way, but it's whatever. And it doesn't seem like that the Senators are going to have any hard time marketing this year. Like, things already look good. They had 16,000 at a preseason game, so great stuff to see. Speaking of the preseason, we've already had 2 games under our belt. Ottawa is clearly the best team in Ontario this year.
Oh, no question.
But so we saw some of the top guys play. We saw Stützle dominate. We saw Chychrun dominate. Just some fantastic play from them. But what about some of the younger guys? Anybody stick out to you, Dayton?
Yeah, so I picked one established guy and one younger guy who stuck out to me each game. First game, Jake Sanderson, that's a top 2 defender right now. 27 minutes, 2 assists. That's exactly what you need. Someone who can take minutes away from Chabot and not feel like you're losing anything. And certainly not with Sanderson. And then Yuri Schmeichel. I think I said that right. I always question myself with that name. I need to listen to that one again. But yeah, he had 2 shots, 2 blocks, and assist. Like, that's a pretty solid depth player on an established team. That is somebody who could come in and play pretty decent minutes or even limited minutes and make an impact. Game 2, like you said, Chychrun, perfect. That's what we need to see from a top defender, especially someone they paid that much to get. And it basically confirmed, I think, that Chabot should never touch 30 minutes again. If Chychrun can play nearly 30 minutes, get 2 goals and 5 blocks in a preseason game, Chabot should be nowhere near that. Give him a break. And of course, he played 31 minutes that game. Why? Don't stop. Young guy, Roby Yarventy. Yarventy. Got a goal, 3 shots, 2 hits. That's another really solid depth performer, and I think he's going to really come into his own this year. That's a kid who's going to get some call-ups, and I think he's got a lot to show.
So before I move on to you, Paul, I'm actually going to – you can give your answer still, but I'm going to add another question in there for you. What is your takeaway from Thomas Chabot and Chychrun playing almost 30 minutes?
Well, I mean, one guy's making $8 million and the other guy's making $4 million. And, the guy making $4 million made his mark. He got 2 goals. One was the overtime winner. And frankly, and this is something I've raised before with Chabot, he's got to step up. He's got to live up to his expectations. I haven't seen it in these 2 preseason games. Although, that said, preseason games are absolutely meaningless. I wouldn't read anything into them, but for the sake of tonight's podcast, well, let's do that. It's fun, but man.
So do you read too deep into? So a big outcry on Twitter has been that DJ Smith hasn't learned anything. None of this is going on. He should not be playing anywhere close to 30 minutes, especially in a meaningless preseason game. Give some of the young guys a chance. Like, where do you sit with that?
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. I don't know. Well, that's why preseason games are so meaningless, right? Because the coaches are giving some of the young guns, the prospects, they may not have a chance of actually making a team, but they want to see what they're made of. Yeah. So, why they're playing the big guns to that extent. Yeah, fair question. Okay. Love to ask DJ that. But.
Dayton, what do you think about that? Them playing 30 minutes?
You know what? I'm actually okay with it. It's like Paul said, it's a meaningless preseason game. Let's see if they can find their mojo a little bit. If that takes them 30 minutes, sure. They're not playing at 100%. I don't think anyone is maybe the young guys are, but there's no reason to play 100% in preseason because none of it matters. So sure, play 30 minutes. If they're doing that in the regular season, then this is a failed experiment. Switch everybody.
That was my takeaway too, is this is their first game together. They're expected to be the top pair through the regular season. And it's really important because Chabot was playing on the right side. One thing that I noticed is that DJ Smith was kind of toying with that pair, starting on different sides, depending on where the face-off is, depending on the situation. If it was an offensive draw, Chychrun was right in the middle on his offhand. So if it was on the left side, he would be in the middle of the zone. And again, if it was on the right side, then he would be on the left-hand side. But he was always in the offensive shot opportunity. And I think it was really valuable to see that 30 minutes of just figuring out what you can do with them, what works best. And because they didn't even get the chance to play together very much last year. So I do think that it's valuable to kind of see what they are together.
So what you're saying then, Jacob, is, he wants to see these 2 guys up close under the microscope in some semblance of a real game experience.
Exactly.
So are you thinking then he's not sold on that pairing? that there could be another pairing?
That's a really good follow-up, actually. I don't think that he's thinking that. I think it's more so just like, how well can we make this work? Not, is this going to work? So that would be my thoughts on that.
Okay.
So over the past few weeks, Shane Pinto rumors have not settled down whatsoever. Some news is saying and reporting that Shane Pinto's camp is asking for more money now than he was before. How much truth is there to that? I don't know. I really hope that it does not kind of turn ugly and impact the relationship between the player and team. Matthew Joseph is still being talked about in trade rumors. Now, the latest report was that the Flyers want Matthew Joseph and Tyler Boucher to clear that cap. Matthew Joseph looked really good yesterday in the preseason game. It was a preseason game. Take that as you will. Toronto did have some of their top guys in there. What are your thoughts on the situation? Like, where are we at right now, Dayton?
If Boucher is what it takes to get the cap space to move Joseph, I would do that in a heartbeat.
Okay.
Gone. Great kid. He seems like he's a hard worker, talented player, but let's be frank, let's be honest, that pick was a bad pick. Maybe one of the worst picks the Senators have ever done in the first round. I'm incredibly harsh on it, right? It was the wrong message. It was the wrong plan.
Yeah.
And now Dorian's clearly trying to save face by, oh no, we can't trade Boucher. He might become something. He might become the 10th overall guy we picked. He's not. He never was going to be. So you now have an out. Take it. Pinto, like, think about it. Like, if you lose Boucher, sure. Yeah, that sucks a little. But he has to pass Greg. He has to pass a Stapchuk. He has to pass even Yarvanty.
Yeah.
That's not happening anytime soon. Yeah, but like, he's a talented prospect. Losing him would suck. Losing Joseph would suck after that first game. He's trying to prove that he can be an NHL player again. Good on him. What would it be like if you lost Pinto? That sucks. That's a thing that would set back your team for at least a year.
Yeah.
So if you weigh the two sides, yeah, cut him. Like, maybe get a second round pick back. I don't care. You get the cap space, you sign Pinto, that's basically your trade.
Yeah. Paul, what do you think?
Well, I mean, the only reason to get rid of Joseph, of course, is to make room to sign Pinto, right? That's what you're doing. And the view now is that, I don't want to put too fine a point on it, but you couldn't give Joseph away, right? You'd have to bring in some sort of sweetener. Boucher, I agree with Dayton. I was never sold on him. I mean, if you look at his injury history, they've been horrendous. So would I go, if I were the coach or Dorian, would I go for that? Well, to state the obvious, I guess, I suppose it depends on what the Flyers are offering. The only thing the Senators can take are picks and prospects, of course, right? They're tapped out on cap space. So would Philadelphia give up a first round pick for Joseph and Boucher? Doubt it.
Philadelphia is not given anything higher than a 5th round pick in this situation. Ottawa has no leverage. It's gonna be nothing coming back. If it's a 5th round pick, that's a win.
Yeah, and Philly's rebuilding, so they're not going to give away high draft picks.
Nope.
So, is there a basis of the deal here? I guess the other side of the coin is it depends on whether Pinto wants to stay in Ottawa.
Yeah,
and if he does, how much does he want? Because I don't think he's worth more than $2 million, $2.5 million at the top end. So if the Pinto camp wants more than that, given that I don't think there's any legs to a deal with Philadelphia, maybe you sign him and trade him. if he doesn't want to stay in town or is asking crazy money, and that seems to be the suggestion lately. But you got to do that. Opening night's October 11th. So in the next week or so, you've got to become cap compliant. And so something has to come together here fairly fast.
Yeah. So all reports that I've been seeing and people that I've been talking to say that Pinto wants to stay. I believe the number even raised is under $3 million. I think that he's worth it. If you could get him in that Matthew Joseph contract and just kind of somehow move it from Joseph on your cap book to Pinto, sure, absolutely. I don't think Pinto signs that long for that low, but you never know. I do think that it's going to be a tough situation. I'm higher on Tyler Boucher than many. I do think that, a ceiling of a strong physical middle six player that's like, I don't think he's going to become a 90-point guy or anything like that, but just like a 40-point third line checking winger, very valuable. Absolutely. It's just a matter of where do you put your value on getting Pinto in the lineup right now? And it should be at an all-time high with the expectations on the team this year. So yeah, I'm right there with you. It all depends on a bajillion things.
Yeah, one thing with Pinto, though, in negotiations, this will go right to the last minute. Both sides are going to be trying to get everything they can out of this, and they're going to be playing chicken and gnashing teeth and, staring each other down. What to check? When did he sign? It was
3 days after the season opener, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was the first game at the Canadian Tire Center of the regular season because he came out onto the balcony and presented himself, and it was a whole ordeal.
What was that, 3 minutes into the game or something? I don't know.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So, there'll be lots of drama.
Yeah.
Lots of things to write about if you're a hockey writer.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we move into maybe even a bigger story this week, here's a message from the Hockey Writers.
Interested in writing for the Hockey Writers? If you have experience writing about hockey, are passionate about the sport, and are looking to take your writing to the next level, the Hockey Writers could be the place for you. Here at THW, you will have the opportunity to hone your craft at one of the world's largest and most respected hockey publishers. You will have control over what you write, be able to seek out media credentials, and be supported by a large network of writers and editors. Plus, you'll get paid for doing it. If you're interested and want to know more about team openings and requirements, please visit the Write for THW page on the Hockey Writers website. A link to that page is also listed in the description.
All right, welcome back, everybody. So speaking of one of the bigger stories of the week is Josh Norris. Obviously, he had a surgery in January. That's 8 months ago now. He started training camp in a non-contact jersey. He did not play in the first 2 games where all of the top players have played so far. I don't want to say that it's going to be a super long-term issue. Reports right now are that he just tweaked it. I've been told that he's fine. It's just a tweak and he'll be fine. It's not really related to the injury. It's more of a precaution, but it's definitely still a red flag that he hasn't played since January and he's still in a non-contact sweater. So how concerned are you right now, Paul?
Well, I'm not concerned at all. I'm a hockey writer, right? I've got no dog in this fight. If I were a Senators fan or part of Sens management, yeah, I'd be concerned. What the heck is going on? He's been out a year with the injury, right?
Yeah, it was November that he went out.
Yeah. So, I'd be really surprised that he's still in the no contact jersey. One of the things that would concern me if I were on the Sens management is if he's not back in the lineup on opening night or can't get back there for the first part of the season, then what is the impact on the lineup? What adjustments have to be made? Who centers that second line? It could mean an awkward start to the season, and Lord knows the Sens can't afford another awkward start to the season. So, he's young, right? He's going to recover from this thing, but when and how are they going to manage it would be my concern.
Yeah, I published a piece a couple days ago about the importance and how the success of the season hinges on having those top three centers all in the lineup.
Yeah.
There's a chance that we start the season with only one of them being Tim Stützle. It can turn into a messy situation really fast. And if you're Shane Pinto's camp, you're using this against the team. You need me in the lineup if Josh Norris is not healthy. You need me. Give me $3.5 million. Why not? I mean, obviously you're gonna highball it, but why wouldn't his camp be saying that? Dayton, where are you sitting at with Josh Norris right now?
I don't think it's a problem. I think it's all precaution. Why waste your energy to get injured again in preseason and then miss several months? You want him to start the season. So maybe they're being a little extra cautious. I remember reading a piece about when he first came out on that non-contact jersey, and he did not want to wear it. He's like, I feel fine. Yeah. Like, let me play. And management was like, no, we're gonna play it safe. And so I think that's all they're doing. He might not get a single preseason game. That's fine. They're just trying to make sure that they do have those three centers. Yeah. And I think Pinto's signs before the season, I would totally use this as leverage as well, but that's about all Pinto has.
Yeah.
And really, he's asking for 3.5. If I know you just made that up, but if he's asking 3.5, sure, why not? Couple of years, 3.5 million.
Yeah.
I think that's more than fair for making a playoff team. It's maybe a little overvalued for him, but
well, and if that's
time,
if it comes with term,
sorry,
if it comes with term, 3.5 is good. If you're signing him 4 or 5 years at 3.5,
that's true.
Money in the bank. If it's 1 year, I don't want to see it over 2.8, but even that might be on the high side. But
no, that's fair.
I'm all for players getting as much money as they can. I think that every player in the NHL is underpaid. But also at the same time, look what Tim Stützle said the other day. You need, I don't know if either of you saw this, but you need players on your team need to take less. He took some shots at the Toronto Maple Leafs and said that you can't have you can't have success with all these 10, 11, $12 million players. I know that I could have gotten more, which could he have gotten more? I don't know he said 10 million. I don't know if that was on the table at that point. Certainly would be now, but when he signed that, I don't know. But yeah,
if he played for the Leafs, it would be. I'll take shots too. Let's go.
But yeah, so there's so many moving parts right now. It's hard to keep track of what's going on. And he was taking a lot of faceoffs in preseason. He was taking a little bit of contact along the boards. So, like you said, Dayton, I don't know how much room there really is for concern if you really put it under a microscope. But the fact that he's not playing in the preseason yet is where I get a little worrisome about it for the Senators. But anything can happen.
If he misses the first couple of games of the season, that's a time for concern for sure. But we talked before, the preseason is meaningless. Do you guys remember the name Ty Ratty?
Yep.
That's one of my favorite little things to toss out. He led the scoring in the preseason 1 year. Yeah. And then was barely a roster player with the Oilers.
Yeah.
When the season started.
And that was I think that was the beginning of the 2018-19 season.
Something like that.
And nobody's heard from him since. It was hilarious. Preseason means nothing.
No.
Yep.
Yeah.
But are you guys really giving are you giving Pinto 3.5 million?
If it comes with term, that's
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
If it's 1 or 2 years, under 3 for sure. But if it's got 4 or 5 years on it, 3.5, perfectly fine.
Do you think he'd take it though? I mean, one view is that go short term at 2.5 million, demonstrate your worth.
Yeah.
And then you've got leverage on the Senators saying, hey, ante up here with more salary or I'm out of here.
Yeah. And I think there's a non-zero chance that he could even in 3 years' time be challenging Josh Norris for that second line center. I'm a huge believer in Pinto. I think he's fantastic. I think Josh Norris is too, but I think Pinto can definitely get up there, depending on who you value more, just their play style. I think he could challenge for a top 6 spot and just kind of have a really strong top 9 and balanced.
If you put Matthew, because everybody's got Matthew going out of town, but I mean, if you put him on waivers, that should clear some. You'll get nothing, of course. He'd probably get picked up, but I don't know.
He would clear waivers at this point just because the leverage that Ottawa doesn't have. But that would clear up $1.15 million this year. That would give the Senators, depending on how many players they run with on their roster, if they run with like 21 or 22 guys, it would give them about 2.1 that they could fit them under.
Sure.
All right, so we're going to move on to our over-under rapid fire that we finish every episode with. Just over-under a certain amount of games or goals or some sort of stat, and a quick sentence of why you think so. So first one I'm going to go with is over or under 15 games for Egor Sokolov. Now, he's looked pretty good in the preseason so far. He's doing a lot of the right things. He spent the whole summer in Ottawa, kind of really pushing for a spot. Paul, over under 15 games.
Over, because I think his skating has really improved, and that was a knock on him. Can't skate. Well, I think based on what I saw in the last 2 games or last night, yeah, he can skate.
Cool. Dayton?
I'm going to still go under. I don't know why I said still. I was having a conversation with myself, apparently. I think his skating has improved. He is a great depth player. I just don't see him passing over too many other guys that are ahead of him who will get more call-ups.
Fair enough. And I'm right there with you. I'm going to go with the under just because there's so many guys, and I would love to see him in the lineup. I'm a huge Egor fan, but there's just so many guys that the odds of him being the one to play that many games is pretty low. I would love to see it be over, though. Over under 25 games played for Jacob Bernard Docker. So there's a few players in the lineup ahead of him for the depth chart on defense. He requires waivers to go down this year, so he is going to be on the NHL lineup. I don't imagine Ottawa is willing to put him on waivers. They would absolutely trade him for anything before that. But what do you think, Paul?
Over, for all those reasons you put out there. Yep. Because if it's not, you can't put him on waivers. He's gone.
Yeah. Dayton?
Yeah, I'll go over as well. They've been jerking him around for years.
Yeah.
He deserved to play 25 games at least last year. Did he get it?
I think he was right around it. I don't know if he hit 25 or not.
Yeah, right around that number. He was one of their better defensive guys. I kind of like him better than Hamonic, but that's never going to happen. I think he gets at least like 30, 35.
Yeah. I think him and Hamonic are pretty interchangeable at this point. Obviously, they're going to lean towards Hamonic just because he's the veteran, but either one of them are going to kind of do the same thing in that role. Over under 41.5 games for Chychrun and Chabot together. So do you think they're going to play half the season? Do you think they're going to get split up? Jake Sanderson might be able to move to the right side. What do you think, Dayton?
Let's go over, because I'm an optimist. That's about all I got.
Paul?
Under. I just think reality is going to set in. There's going to be injuries. There's going to be guys moving up and down, and just life's going to intervene. It's just not going to be predictable. So I think you could see some change up there.
Yeah, fair enough. I do think that they're going to hit the over as long as they're healthy. If they're going to stay healthy is a whole different question. Over under 55.5 games played for Josh Norris. Paul?
Over. If you go back to 2021-22, I think he got all 82 games in. Yeah. And so you're really asking, is he going to stay healthy?
Yeah.
Well, you guys are telling me not to worry about his non-contact jersey, so I take you at your word. He's good. He's good to go.
Fair enough, Dayton.
I'd love to be contradictory here, but then I'd also contradict what I said earlier. So I'm going to go with the over. I think he's fine.
Yeah. I don't like the games played over under for players that are regular NHLers, because then you're just predicting if they're going to get hurt or not, which is impossible to do. With the prospects and the up and comers, it's more so like, are they going to earn the spot or not? But yeah, I'm going to hit the over for Norris as well. I hope he stays healthy all year. Anything else anybody wanted to add real quick before we close the show? No, all good. So thank you everybody for tuning into this episode of the Senators Roundtable. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out our content on thehockeywriters.com. Next week, we're hoping to have another special guest. Thanks for watching.